Hey, what's going on, guys? I am back. I know I've been kind of lacking in content lately. I've been busy and haven't had a lot of motivation to make any videos lately, but today I'm going to be talking about my entry for May 2024 Anime North Block Brawl event. Um, we have Circuit Circus. Now, if you've seen my first version of Circuit Circus, you may notice that there's a pretty big difference. This is a completely different robot that I brought last time. I mean, I guess functionality, functionally it's the same. It's a two-wheel horizontal disc spinner robot. But if you've seen the last robot, you know that this does not look anything the same. There's a lot different. This is just a completely different robot, and we're gonna get into that. So first of all, this is kind of I guess, less glass cannon robot. This is definitely still a glass cannon robot. I'm just gonna say that, but this is kind of a less of that, I guess, because this is a much smaller, more reasonably sized weapon than what we had last time. Just to compare, this is the current weapon, and this is what we were running last time. This weapon is just so huge. I can't even run it on here. Like, if I were to try and put that, it would actually just hit all the electronics. The only reason I was even able to run it last time was because it was on a very large motor that was surface mounted, which I'll get into in a minute, that went above the wheels like that, so it would clear everything. But as you can see, this is actually pretty close to the ground. And there's a couple ways I was able to do that. So this is using a brand new motor. This is a 2204 motor, 2300 kV, so a very fast motor. I'm still running it on 3S, lithium high voltage battery. So this thing can go pretty fast. Using the same wheels and everything, it's the same length. This chassis is very based off of the last one. If you look at the last one we used, this is like almost the same, but there are multiple differences. We actually have a back wall now, and we have some metal plates. I'll get into that in a bit. But this does have a wall, so you can see. If I were to take this off, you'd see that there's a wall that goes around here. And we actually have a top plate now. This is a TPU top plate. The rest of this is ABS, but this is TPU. And if you haven't used TPU before, very flexible plastic. It's very durable. It actually kind of feels like a leather than a plastic, especially when it's this thin. It just has like a leathery texture when it's printed like this. Very thin. It's just enough to kind of hold everything, to keep everything inside. You may notice this large bearing we have on here. This is actually a pretty heavy bearing, but it surrounds the motor. We have a 3D printed ring here. I don't know if you can see that, if the quality is all that good. It kind of hugs the motor there, and the bearing surrounds that. And we have this PETG part here. This is the only other part that's PETG. This and the motor bearing coupler there, those are PETG, and that holds the bearing. So this is actually a very tough weapon system. And you may notice we have a metal plate there. Last time, the metal plate, the aluminum plate that holds the motor, was mounted there on the surface. This actually mounts inside, and if you take a look at this slightly broken piece, I'm not using it, but it still does show the motor actually mounts in this hole. Last time it was this where I bolted it. Here it actually goes inside, and the aluminum goes right there. So, and the motor's kind of pressed into here, so even when it's not bolted in place, just having it there actually holds it in pretty well. So very compact and tough motor system. I really don't think it's gonna fail. It's very robust for a tiny motor too, with only a 4mm shaft. This spinner is very, very loud, by the way. Very fast spinner, and it screams. The last weapon, this one, only spun up to like 88 miles an hour. Still did a lot of damage, had a lot of kinetic energy in it. But it was actually pretty quiet. That's only around like 4,500 RPM. So when this was spinning, it was pretty quiet. It made like do a bit of like a rumble, had like a bit of a rumble to it, and that was mostly just the vibration and like the wheels just hitting on the ground. Very quiet weapon. This thing, when it's spinning, I don't even want to be in the same room as it. It just has this loud scream, just a high-pitched noise. Theoretically, with like no voltage drop from the battery, this weapon can reach 30,000 RPM, which equates to around 360 miles an hour. I don't think the battery voltage is going to stay that high, so it's probably near like 300 miles an hour. Very fast weapon, very scary. And this is a 102 gram blade. This one was 180, so the weight, it does drop a bit, but this is still a large weapon for an ant weight, and it still does hit pretty hard. By no means is this not an overpowered blade. It hits pretty hard, and it's going to when I compete. By no means is this not a terrifying weapon. But yeah, it's a lot more stable. The Circuit Circus 1, its weapon was actually angled towards the ground a bit. So imagine we had wheels on there. Weapon here is kind of like that. It's kind of what it looked like. This robot, when it sits on the ground, I put my camera back a bit. That's possible. You can see very level to the ground. So when I do like quick turns on the spot, it doesn't like raise up or push against the ground like it used to, like a normal angled spinner does. It's pretty much parallel to the floor, which is what you want. I generally don't like angled spinners. The only reason why I had it angled last time was because it kind of had to be. I don't know if I have the motor here. The last motor I used was very high, especially on here. The weapon was like up here. It's not like I wouldn't hit anything, but I do want the weapon to be as low as possible, so I did have to lower it, and it's generally difficult to lower it, especially when everything is already calculated and everything. So it's just a difficult process. This, because I have the motor kind of inside the chassis a bit, I can get the weapon pretty low, and I have these new motor mounts. As you can see, these are shaped pretty differently, a lot beefier, and they're actually calculated to have it low to the ground. So this sits pretty well. I really like the placement of the weapon. Very compact. And yeah, we now have back to the top plate and everything, the armor. Everyone's been pushing me to put armor on the stupid robot, so I finally have done that. We have a TPU top plate, it kind of just covers everything. We have steel armor. It's a bit rough, but this actually doesn't just act as armor, it's also a ballast. So that's another thing I forgot to mention. This thing, not only is it harder to flip upside down because of the new center of gravity. Last time, like, the center of gravity was like, I don't know, like here. So this thing flips super easily with this giant weapon. This new weapon caused the center of gravity to actually be behind the wheels. So if you can see this, when it sits like that, it's actually, I have no idea if you can see that, it actually sits off the ground. The front is raised up, and this was intentional. I wanted it to be like that because now when it's upside down, look at that. The weapon is fully functional, and it does drive upside down. that's a bunch of issues we fixed from last time. It would constantly flip itself over. It's how I lost 2 fights and was eliminated from the tournament. I only had 2 fights on my last competition. Every single fight flipped itself over and then just destroyed itself because it could not work or get back over onto its wheels. This robot is more difficult to flip, and even if you do flip it, it's fully functional. It does drive. It actually goes backwards pretty well because of the center of gravity, and the weapon still spins. It sits a bit higher, which is great. It definitely increases my chance of getting a win, or just at least a better performance in general. Yeah, with the electronics, everything's pretty much still the same batteries. The speed controller is actually now just a simple 30 amp ESC. Last time I was using the Hobby Wing ESCs for that big huge 5010 brushless motor that I'm not using anymore. That kind of turned out to be a bit of a mistake. If you were to turn it up too high, it would just blow up. There's like barely any heat protection, like thermal protection on those. And they would just blow up so fast. I liked them because they had the braking, which was really useful, especially for this big huge weapon. If it would start to destabilize and do this kind of thing, I could just lower the throttle and stop that from happening, which if you watch very closely in some of my fights, you can actually watch me do that. The first fight in the Robodrome Rumble, I was actually able to stop it from doing the gyro thing just by breaking it and causing it to stop the weapon. So we're not going to have that this time, but because this weapon has a lowered kinetic energy, it's not even going to gyro nearly as much as this anyway, so we might be okay. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to try and upload some more videos. If I can get the motivation. I've been busy with school and work and stuff, and just haven't had the time or motivation to do it, but I will try. Really hoping to get a win with this. Matter of fact, I actually also have a 3rd version of Circuit Circus ready to go after this competes, so stay tuned for that. That one is going to be insane. I have a lot of big plans for that robot. I want to bring this weapon back because as much as I'm really happy with the benefits of this weapon, I really do love this, and I want to put this back on a robot. It just hits really hard, and it's huge and scary. Whenever people see it at the competition, they always say, wonder if it's a beetle weight, or they ask what my beetle weight's name is. I know it's for an ant weight, and I get to watch this shocked look on their face. So really hoping to get this back on a robot, but for now I need to practice with a less destructive weapon and that's more stable, and I need to practice my driving a bit. So this is what we're bringing. Really excited to unleash it, and yeah, that's about it.